Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
To be sure, life is always composed of those experiences and encounters which provide both challenge to one's character and the testing of one's spirit. Life's greatest wars are never waged on the plains of mortal combat and physical struggle. Life's greatest wars are fought on the battlefield of the mind. Life's most serious conflict is inner conflict, and the scars of war that inflict the most permanent wound and cause the greatest pain are to be found not on the skin, but on the soul. To be sure, life is not only composed of experiences and encounters, it is also composed of question marks. In every life, there are always questions which ought to be asked and which demand an answer. The first question of life is always, who am I? Who am I? And the second question is similar to it. What am I living for? What am I living for? However, when life has been lived to a level of maturity, when one's experiences and encounters have led to some ups and led to some downs, some joy and some sadness, some friends and some enemies, some sunshine and some shadow, some trials and some tribulations, there is yet another question that every person must ask. That question is, how did I get where I am, which is so far from where I'm supposed to be? This matter of life's encounters and questions may begin to gain relevance, I believe, when viewed against the backdrop of the prophetic career of Elijah, which we encounter today in our first reading from the book of 1 Kings. It is to be remembered, beloved, that Elijah was the prophet who had come to conflict with a king named Ahab and his queen named Jezebel. The godless reign of Ahab and Jezebel had brought the nation to an era of depravity and immorality which had never been equaled in Israel's history. By various means and methods, God had tried to send a message to Ahab and Jezebel. For 3 years, neither rain nor anything that looked like it fell. And they still didn't get the message. Ahab had been taught a lesson when he tried to execute a quit claim on Naboth's vineyard. Go back and read it. And he still would not repent. Elijah wound up in conflict with the 450 prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. So powerful was the hand of God on Mount Carmel that fire fell from heaven and burned up all the prophets, all of them, and their altar. And still, the powers that be would not listen. It was in light of Ahab and Jezebel's defeat, and in the presence of the victory of Elijah and our God on Mount Carmel, that Jezebel sent a word to Elijah. She said, Elijah, now you've gone too far. The same thing that you've done to my prophets is the same thing that I'm going to do to you. And the fact of the matter is, you don't have but 24 hours to live. It will be tomorrow about this same time that I'm going to take your life and give you a dose of your own medicine. Now the record says that when Elijah discovered that his life was endangered in a manner that he had never known before, he said set out in a hurry from where he was in Jezreel in the north to Beersheba in the south. The word goes further to say that when he arrived in Beersheba, he left his servant there, and then he went another day's journey into the wilderness. And he came and sat down under a broom tree. A broom tree is similar to a juniper tree. And in my mind's eye, I can see and imagine a defeated and desolate Elijah sitting under that juniper tree in the solitude of his own sadness. I can see in my mind's eye a forlorn Elijah having sought only to do God's will and to speak a word on God's behalf, bathed in the rushing waters of internal turmoil and the flooding waters of anguish and anxiety. I can see it. I can see a defeated Elijah suffering the ill effects of a kind of professional prophetic burnout. And I see him experiencing the deepening depression of mental and spiritual aloneness. I can see Elijah. I see an Elijah who had come to the point where he had to ask life's most difficult question. How did I get where I am, which is so far from where I'm supposed to be? And so, beloved, if that question has ever been your question, if you've ever wondered how you got where you are in the unfolding drama of your own life, if you have ever known the kind of disturbing depression which draws into question the very meaning of your existence, then perhaps you will think that I'm correct to tell you that life can be hard when you think you're all alone. There was Elijah. There he was, separated from his family and alienated from his friends and wondering why it seemed as though God had turned God's back on him. There he was, Elijah, who had worry for his companion and frustration for his only friend. A little wonder then, beloved, that in his state of mental anxiety and depression, Elijah made an exit to an exile in the wilderness. The wilderness. The wilderness of solitude, the wilderness of aloneness, the wilderness of sober reflection, the wilderness of internal withdrawal, the wilderness of personal introspection. And I may as well tell you now, as I have told you on other occasions, there are only three kinds of people in the world: those who are in the wilderness, those who have just come out of the wilderness, and those who are headed straight into the wilderness. You may not know it, but in every life, there comes a time for some wilderness duty. And you may be riding high today, but there's some wilderness time that's just waiting on you. The book says that into every life, some rain must fall, and it rains upon the just and the unjust. Beloved, I brought all this to your attention because in the midst of that wilderness experience, God heard a word from Elijah. And this word declares that Elijah sat down under a broom tree and requested for himself that he might die. What Elijah must have said was, I have had enough. Take my life. I've had enough. I'm tired of struggling with the Ahabs and the Jezebels of the world. I've had enough. I'm weary of wrestling with principalities and powers in high places. I've had enough. I don't have what it takes to struggle with the forces of iniquity and the regiments of unrighteousness. I've had enough. I'm tired of walking in the counsel of the ungodly and standing in the way of all these sinners. I'm almost starved to death. I have had to be fed by a raven. I've seen my brook dry up. I've had to fight 450 prophets of Baal when no one else would stand with me. Ahab and Jezebel have a contract out on my head, and for all my work, I'm out here in the wilderness. I'm out here by myself. I've had enough, and enough is enough. Viewed from the perspective of the prophetic vocation, one may well understand Elijah's frustration. But even if we just take a look to the contemporary socio-political arena, it will reveal disturbing and undesirable realities that are rife in human history. You know, the truth is that the most erudite theologian in the history of Christianity was a black man named Augustine. And yet, more than 1,600 years after Augustine wrote The City of God, his most pivotal theological work, we still have a large percentage of high school students that drop out who are black. And over 40% of black teenagers are unemployed and will not be employed. The truth is that more than 60 years after Brown versus the board, there are children of ours who still cannot read. The truth is that more than 150 years after Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, black folk are still not free. The question to be asked of blacks in America today is, how long do we sit under the broom tree of accommodation and conciliation and hiding from the Ahabs and the Jezebels of the world? Shall we, like the children of Israel, hang our harps on the willow tree and refuse to sing the Lord's song? Or are reparations in order? Or is it time to tell the oppressor, to tell the agents of immorality, to tell the presiders over godless government, to tell Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, enough is enough? But I digress. Elijah's argument was not simply with the social order. Elijah's argument was with God. Now, I assure you, I don't intend to question the integrity of Elijah's purpose. But there are some matters which seem to me very strange. If you got a moment, I wanted to review this matter, for I hear Elijah saying, Lord, I have had enough. Take away my life. Now the record indicates that Elijah was already in Jezreel, but when he got ready to tell God to take his life, he told him in Beersheba. Here's what I mean. Now I know that Elijah was despondent, but if he just wanted to die, he could have stayed right there in Jezreel. The Jezebel would have gladly provided death for him where he was. And he could have saved himself the cost of transportation. And that just leads me to say, beloved, I've come to understand that everybody that's talking about dying ain't ready to go. You talk about how bad it is with you, and you complain and moan and groan about how tired you are and how many aches and pains you have, but you ain't ready to die. As long as there is breath in your body, you are not ready to die. And so I wanted to point this matter out to you, point it to your attention, because, you know, from Jezreel to Beersheba is over 100 miles. And Elijah ran from Ahab and Jezebel over 100 miles. Ahab and Jezebel, beloved, simply represented the challenge, the risk, the encounter in Elijah's life. But how many of us are running away from our own individual challenges? How many of us are trying to escape a confrontation with some enemy. Elijah ran 100 miles. Oh, but I came to tell you today, don't ever underestimate the traveling power of evil. You may as well stand still because trouble will follow you. No need to move to another town. No need to send your resume for another job. No need to search for an alternative life. No need to join another church. Trouble will follow you wherever you go. The hell you run from over here will meet you over there. Y'all preaching this. Oh, I understand your disappointment. I understand your despondency. I understand your depression, because enough is enough. But never underestimate the traveling power of evil. I've been trying to examine this Elijah story very carefully, and I've discovered that Elijah's problem was not Ahab, and not Jezebel, and not the social order. Elijah's problem was Elijah. And if I'm honest in an analysis of my own life, the trouble with me is me. And if you're honest in an analysis of your own life, the trouble with you is you. You may as well face the fact that when God gives you an assignment, you best find yourself doing it. You see, if a doctor has all the equipment to save a life and yet refuses to do it, somebody will charge her with malpractice. And I'm afraid, beloved, that today a whole lot of us Christians are not doing what we could be doing and should be charged with malpractice as well. A whole lot of Christians are not serving as they should be serving. Whatever God has told you to do, just do it and leave the rest to God, because you can't outrun evil. You can't turn back the hands of time no matter how much you try. You cannot alter the ebb and flow of history. Enough is enough. But there is one thing we can do, beloved. The songwriter says, if you trust and never doubt, he will bring you out. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. I'm almost done. Now, I want to listen carefully to what Elijah's real complaint is. When the Lord caught up with Elijah under that broom tree, what he said was, Lord, I'm the only one left. Everybody else is gone. Ain't nobody sitting in the pews. Folks that used to be here moved on. Everybody's gone but me. Nobody else is out here taking up your cause but me, and they're ready to take my life as well. That's why I say enough is enough, because I'm the only one you got, and that you can count on. That's the time I heard God say to Elijah, you have a rather self-centered brand of religion. I think you ought to know you're not the only fish in the sea. You're important, Elijah. You're important, but you're not indispensable. You don't know it, Elijah, but I've got 7,000 besides you who have not bowed their knee to Baal. Oh, God still has somebody else to witness for God besides you. The book says that while Elijah lay his head in a despondent state, he got reminded that he was important, but not special. The book also says that while Elijah lay in his despondent state, God sent an angel to feed him. The angel brought bread and water. Brought bread and water enough for him to last 40 days. The angel said, you don't have enough for your journey? What journey? Elijah said, I'm through. I'm on send you from where you are to where I want you to be. I'm going to send you from the molehill to the mountain. I'm going to send you from your place to my place. I'm going to send you to Mount Horeb. I'm going to send you from where the burning to where the burning bush is still on fire. I'm going to send you from defeat's degradation to my revelation. I'm going to send you from where you can hear a still small voice. I'm going to send you from the wilderness to the mountain. In the wilderness, there is weakness, but on the mountain, there is strength. You see, in the wilderness, there is loneliness, but on the mountain, there is companionship. In the wilderness, there is despair, but on the mountain, there is hope. I'm going to send you there. In the wilderness, there is sorrow, but on the mountain, there is joy. In the wilderness, there are enemies, but on the mountain, there are friends. In the wilderness, there's fatigue, but on the mountain, there is rest. Oh, Elijah, in the wilderness, there is bondage, but on the mountain, there is freedom. In the wilderness, there is death, but on the mountain, there is life. In the wilderness, I'm sending you from the wilderness to the mountain. Well, the last thing I want to tell you about Elijah is that it's mighty audacious for any man or woman to tell God when it's enough. What right does Elijah have to say it is enough? We don't have to tell God. God knows when our burdens get us down. God knows when disappointments come and they're all around. God knows when life caves in on us. God knows when our brooks run dry. You don't have to tell God when enough is enough. He knows. He knows when to say enough is enough. He knows when to say you fought a good fight. He knows when to say well done. And I like the way Roberta Martin said it when she said, though the load gets heavy, you never